My nan passed away. I then found out I was pregnant and miscarried, and I was in a bit of a depression. So my nan, she was doing charity work in Kenya for about 20 years. I bridge HMOs with SAs. I manage rooms. I prioritise healthcare workers. And so my current monthly turnover is around 20 to 22,000.
And of that 22 grand, about £5 grand profit?
Yeah. I'm able to work on my passion throughout the day, and I can plan and decide how I do that and structure my day.
People will look back in years to come and say, do you remember 2024, 2025? People exiting their jobs en masse and getting into property. I don't think you have any idea how much value and inspiration you bring to the property investment community.
Thank you, Samuel.
And I'm so glad to have you, not only as part of the academy and in the community, but also here on Winners on a Wednesday. So what was it that made you agree to sit down and do this interview?
Well, you're a massive inspiration yourself. So, and you seeing that in me, I think is what has inspired me to step out of my comfort zone. You suggested coming on here, giving my journey, letting people know where I started, why I started, and where I'm at and where I'm going.
Yeah.
So I've taken that leap of faith now to share my journey so far.
But you did some great things. You flipped a house, you control how many properties?
Currently control 7.
7 properties.
In the Gloucestershire.
Full-time in property?
I'm full-time in property now.
Yeah. How does it feel to be full-time in property, not have a job?
Do you know what? I wake up in the morning, I'm full of gratitude. I'm really grateful that, I can wake up and I can decide how my day is going to go. That luxury alone, I'm still kind of living in that blessing and trying to reel in, I prayed to be like this, I prayed to be living a life like this.
Yeah. Over
the last year or so now, I've just been really kind of living in the moment, but I now feel I'm going to take things further. Hence, I joined the academy. I know I took a little bit of time.
A lot of persuasion, but I needed you on the academy because not just because I knew you needed it, but I knew that people needed you in it.
Right.
I knew that you had a lot to give.
And
that's what the community is about. It's not just about what you can get, it's about what you can bring to it.
It's true.
And you're such an asset to the community, and I'm so grateful to have you in it.
Thank
we
you.
go back such a long way.
We do.
That's why I've got a soft spot for you. And when we reconnected a year or so back, when did we first become friends? Was it 10 years ago?
Probably about 10 years ago.
Yeah, with Training Kings.
With Training Kings.
Yeah, and that's why I saw your heart for championing businesses. I know at the time you were in just a regular job, you're working in HR.
HR for the NHS, yeah.
But with a massive, massive vision.
Yeah.
Tell me about your nan, because if I remember going back a decade, that was a big reason for why you wanted to be successful.
Correct.
To kind of help your nan with her legacy, which now you're looking to continue on after she passed away. But talk to me about that.
So my nan, she was doing charity work in Kenya for about 20 years. She was supporting orphans. So essentially she'd have families in the UK sponsoring children out in Kenya. And her goal was to build an orphanage. It didn't happen, but she does have children's homes in her name. Before she passed away, I've been visiting Kenya with her.
What's it like in Kenya?
It's a beautiful country, and the people, oh my God, everyone's just so happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone's just got massive smiles on their face. Even if they might be living in the slums, but they're full of joy. And so us going out there, bringing clothing, and, taking the school children on trips that they'd never been on before, to safaris. We did charity work like that, just putting the biggest smile on their face.
There's a guy, Anthony Hubbard. Do you remember him?
Right. Anthony Hubbard, yeah. He is who introduced us.
Do you know what happened? It's really funny. I was speaking at a PIN meeting in Hull.
Hull, yeah.
Yeah. I drove all the way to Hull, right, all the way to Hull to go network at an event, go to a little speech. And there must have been about 15, 20 people there. Most people pretty miserable. And I'm thinking, why have I driven all this way to go give a 20-minute tour in front of 15 grumpy people in Hull? I mean, what am I doing? It's like a 7-hour round trip. That's what you got to do, isn't it? In the early days when you're networking, and this was a decade ago.
Hustle.
Now. Hustle and network. Now it's passed onto a plate. People join the academy and it's woof. But for me, I had to build that from scratch. So I went to this event, I spoke, talked about my deal sourcing, what I'm doing, and I also talked about Training Kings.
Right.
Christian Business Network, which I was running at the time, which is bringing Christians in business together. I talked about that. And this guy came up to me, Anthony, and he said, I know a Christian. I was like, do you? Oh, wow. He goes, yeah, I know a Christian, and she's, pretty entrepreneurial. I think you'd get on with her. Her name's Katie Johnson. And I was like, all right. And I thought, well, as there's no one else here that's networking with me, or what, yeah, I'll take a number. And I think I must have messaged you, and we met up in Bicester Village.
Bicester Village, yeah.
And I shared with you my vision for championing Christian business people, because a lot of, my experience from wanting to be a business person, but also from the church, is that sometimes as a Christian, we feel guilty about wanting to be successful in business.
That's right.
And we're banged on the head at church, told to be on the Sunday school rather than being released into the marketplace to actually make a difference. I spoke to you about the vision, and Training Kings have been running maybe a year or so, and you bought into the vision.
Bought in.
And
sold
ran.
Me in.
I sold you in.
You sold me hardcore. That was my. Yeah, you were a good salesman.
Yeah.
That trait. Yeah.
What was it that made you buy into the vision?
Your passion. Your passion, and I was like, I've got to work with this guy. Your ambition. Because obviously, it was just like your energy.
Yeah, and I was like 23 at the time.
You were
Yeah, I was 23.
And I remember sitting there, I was like, I think I was like, I need to call my accountant about this, I need to check,
I was like, nah, man.
You were like, yeah.
Let's get in, let's get the venues booked.
Honestly, and it was just...
Yeah, and you ran the London in Chelsea. You ran a Training Kings Christian Business Network, and I had at the time, I think about 17 branches or something like that across the country. You headed up the London one, which was the most successful branch by far, and everyone was attracted. All the people from the churches across London came, and it was brilliant. And I know Training Kings, we kind of I took a different turn with it in time, and that was what birthed my property education company, because everyone was coming to Training Kings and saying, can you teach me about property? And I'm like, you got to give the people what they want.
Right.
So that was kind of our origin, and you had this big vision to be successful in business. You wanted to get into property. You wanted to help your nan in Kenya and all that.
Yeah.
And then we didn't speak for like maybe 8 years or something.
Just went cold turkey for a little while, but essentially,
but always good terms, And
always
I
good terms,
good memories of you and stuff. But you kind of disappeared off of social media, went quiet, and just continued in your job. Yeah,
I think I hit a bit of a depression, to be honest. And
is that because you didn't see me for 8 years, or?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I missed you.
Yeah, of
missed
course.
the energy. But what was crazy was I had so many people talking about you. Friends from Gloucester, from all over. I was thinking, I know this guy. So, and I was in a bit of a depression, I must admit. And then my nan passed away. I then found out I was pregnant and miscarried. I realised that I needed to find like a focus, and property was, a vehicle, or working in property would have been a vehicle that I know I could create some income from, but also to be able to help others. In my profession within the NHS and being in recruitment, we're tracked on time to hire. If a doctor or nurse can't start their job and it's because they can't find somewhere to live, that was affecting our kind of recruitment targets.
Right.
And I realised I need to do something about this. So my passion for, wealth building, for helping people, for, seeing the opportunities that there were to help the NHS fill vacancies quicker. Hearing people talk about Samuel Leeds, and I was then following you on social media and seeing all the amazing things you were doing and how you kind of scaled things from Training Kings to this huge property empire that you were building for yourself, but also the amount of success cases. I was like, okay, now I've got to reach out.
Yeah.
So I reached out to you.
I remember.
You remember?
Yeah, you dropped me a message and it was like, hey, we should probably reconnect.
I said, I admire your journey so much. You're super inspiring. How can I help you, or how can you help me? And essentially you said, you've got a crash course coming up. Came along to the crash course, immediately signed up for the rent-to-rent training. It was absolute no-brainer. Could see that I know I'm going to learn a lot, because even the crash course was incredibly inspiring. You leave that crash course you can take on the world.
Yeah.
So as soon as I got that trainer, I remember I was texting and emailing the admin team, when am I going to get my logins? I need my logins. From Monday, I dedicated 2 hours a day to bang out the courses. And literally within 6 months, I had pretty much about 4 rent-to-rents or 4 properties I was managing.
Nice.
And within 8 months, I'd left my job.
Amazing.
And was full-time, and I'm still full-time in property now.
Why did it take you so long to join the academy? Because I had Chris as the designated guy on your case. What was going on your end? Because I was like to Chris, Kate Johnson, be nice to her.
Yeah.
She's a dear friend, but she has to join the academy.
I was thoroughly enjoying learning and the journey of managing the rent-to-rents.
You did the advanced rent-to-rent training, to be fair.
Yeah, it wasn't like I hadn't done any training at all. But essentially, that rent-to-rent training, honestly, you literally gave the blueprint, which was what I needed, step by step. And I literally followed what you said to a T in that video. And that's how I got my success.
Yeah.
Essentially, so joining the academy, I felt kind of wanted to work some more on systemizing what I've already got rather than jump into learning more strategies, because I know what I'm like and I get anxious and I just want to do everything. So I thought, okay, let me just give myself some time, but also to just enjoy the luxury of being able to wake up in the morning and plan my day.
You just quit your job and you're like, I just want to relax. I know, because you know what I'm like? I'll push you to the next level.
That's literally what it was. And I was thinking, do I want to be stretched again so soon?
Yeah, because I will. On our last mentoring call, I was like, right, this.
It's true.
Change your entire business. Right, BRRs now. You need to start buying stuff. What are you doing?
Literally.
You weren't ready for the smoke.
I wasn't ready. I knew the smoke was coming. I met you 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Training Kings was such a success in London. You were pushing me hard. So it got to the point where, okay, it's time. It's time I step out of the comfort zone again now.
Yeah.
You know, I took that leap of faith, joining the academy. Been on the academy now coming up 2 months, thoroughly enjoying it. Meeting so many people. The WhatsApp group is so buzzy. Everyone's so friendly. Everyone's so supportive. I'm still working through all the training. However, the plan is now to go into some BRRs.
What's your rent-to-rent business turning over at the moment, like per month?
So my current monthly turnover is around 20 to 22,000 pounds per month.
Incredible.
I can't believe it. I've pretty much been doing this single-handedly, other than the early days when I get, roping family friends, my mum, my sister, different people
Who
to
I
come
know
and
as
do
well.
some paint. You do know them all?
Yeah, I know them. So that's incredible. And where are your properties located then?
So they're all in the Gloucestershire area.
Are they HMOs?
They're HMOs, yeah.
So what's the strategy then here? What are you doing?
Well, I bridge HMOs with SAs.
Right.
So essentially, I manage rooms and I allow healthcare workers. I prioritise healthcare workers essentially.
Which is part of your mission anyway.
It's part of my mission. I moved from London back to my hometown of Gloucester to begin this.
Yeah.
Forged a partnership with the local hospital so that my first group that I housed for like 2-3 months were international nurses that had been recruited from the hospital.
Wow.
So it was really lovely to have like community already within the houses.
Yeah.
Everyone gets along. They just arrived together. There was like a coach that came and dropped people off. One of the buildings that I manage is an old student accommodation block. Minibuses came, like nurses coming out of like suitcases everywhere. It was just an incredible to see that.
Wow.
Oh wow, I've made this happen.
Yeah. And the money is almost like a bonus, isn't it? When you're living your best life and you're doing what you're meant to be doing. And of that 22 grand, about $5 grand profit?
Yeah, I'd say about
which
5.
is more than most jobs pay. Are you making more now than you were in your job?
I would say my take-home pay is probably a little bit less, but I think that's me still reinvesting into my business.
Yeah. So you're just paying yourself what you need to pay and then putting the money back into your business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm really just covering my living expenses personally at this moment.
How's life changed, like now working on your passion, which is not only property, but also housing NHS workers? And are you happier now?
Much happier. Because what I've been able to do is find the middle ground between my professional career with the NHS and my passion for property and the need that there is. Being an NHS worker, working during COVID was really, really hard. And I myself needed to find a new place to live and I struggled. I was working evenings, I was working weekends, and estate agents were not prioritising or giving us any help.
Yeah.
Everybody else was like, swanning around on furlough.
Yeah.
NHS staff were like, and other key workers were like working their socks off. And I had really bad damp in my flat and I needed to get out. Because I was complaining about it to my landlord, he basically issued me a Section 21. So I literally did have to move.
That's so bad.
During COVID. So anyway, I managed to be a bit resourceful. And there was a flat I viewed. The agents were taking long to accept my offer. And I was able to essentially find who the landlords were and say to them, look, I work for the NHS, this, that, and the other. Can you help me? Trying to, pull some heartstrings. And I actually did get the property, get the flat. Those landlords to this day contacted me just last week saying they've got a site in London. Would I want to do something with it for NHS staff?
Wow.
Because when I was leaving his flat in London to come back home to Gloucester, I did try to negotiate doing like an essay, but he wasn't that open to the idea.
Right.
However, he's come back to me, a year later, knowing that I'm doing well and I'm full-time in property now, which I wasn't when I was living in his flat.
Yeah.
And now he's looking to offer me an opportunity to work with him on another site.
That's great.
So
how do you approach landlords then from scratch? Like, how do you get landlords to agree to give you their properties? And how do you work out, because your heart is to do what you're doing, but how do you work out the numbers to know that you're going to make enough profit on the deal to take it on?
Now, in order to contact landlords, one of my first deals was via Open Rent.
Right, and what is that?
So Open Rent is an online platform where landlords or agents will advertise rooms of whole properties. And essentially you can message them, and most times it's going directly to them.
Mm-hmm. So it's almost like Rightmove, but for landlords direct.
Correct.
They just want to rent their properties out.
They just want to rent the properties out.
Yeah.
And what I found is if you found a property on there that looked a little bit run down and perhaps not as desirable, it was more likely going to be a landlord that was advertising it.
Yeah.
A lazy
landlord. Tired, lazy. That's open for anything.
It's open for anything.
Yeah.
And essentially I contacted this one, was able to meet him at the property. He didn't live in the area. So he lived I think he lived in Birmingham. It's like an hour away. And he came and met me and he just liked my vibe. I was walking around the property. I was like, well, why did you do this? Why is that all magnolia? I was like teasing him a bit.
Yeah.
And just showing him my personality.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, do you mind if I do a video? And I was walking around the video and doing a video. And I was like, oh, there he is. I was just kind of making a light joke, light fun of, is that viewing?
And he probably bought into you a bit. He's like, I like this lady. We can do business. Yeah.
And because I know that there's somebody else that tried to go for that property on a rent-to-rent basis who offered more as well.
Oh, and he said no to them and yes to you.
He said no to them and yes to me.
So what's the lesson in that?
Authenticity.
Yeah.
Being yourself.
Yeah.
I like to have fun.
Yeah. Do you know what? That's one of my strap lines is have fun.
Is it?
Yeah. No, it's one of my mottos.
Is it?
Yeah. I say it to all my staff. I'm just like, have fun.
Have fun.
But have you got any tips for me about have fun?
Yeah.
You're about to go on stage and speak, aren't you?
I am.
Do you know what my advice to you is going to be? Have fun. Yeah, have fun. Just have fun. If you're enjoying yourself, you're so much more successful.
Right.
I think that when you're too serious, do you know people that have phone voice? So they'll call landlords and they're like, oh, hello, I'm calling. It's like, just have fun. Just have fun. Don't need to be super professional or anything. Me doing Winners on a Wednesday, I just love doing it. I have fun.
Right.
So that property then, so you rented it to you and now you rent it out.
And now I rent it out by the room, obviously with his permission. Did have to put in a new kitchen, renovate it, paint it, furnish it. But I'm now looking at, now that I've done your lease option training, I'm now looking at presenting a new offer to him. Because it's his only property in Gloucester. I think he owns about like 200 or something in Birmingham.
But that one's the annoying one. He hasn't
one.
got the management in place.
Exactly.
So you're going to try and say, look, at the end of the lease, can I buy it, fix the price now?
That's exactly it.
It's really interesting, Katie. The strategies, they all link. Rent to rent, BRR, lease option, deal selling, they all link. And it's like, when you've got your full toolbox, you can just go and sit in front of a landlord and go, how can I help you?
How can I help you? Yeah. And I think that's probably where I probably should have joined the academy sooner, because then I would have learnt about the lease options.
You still did it pretty quick. Yeah, it's only a few months. We got you in the end. It's only a few months.
It's true. But like you said, the rent to rent and the lease option strategy.
Yeah, and selling deals. You might come across a deal that doesn't quite work for you, but you can sell it.
It's true.
But if you don't know how to sell deals, and you're just then working out, how much rent could I get for this? What are my costs going to be?
Correct.
How can I make sure that I'm going to be making at least, like, how much does that one property, what do you make on that on average?
So essentially you reverse engineer it. So you're looking at, okay, I'm renting out the rooms by around £500 each. I pay the landlord. I think I pay him about $1,300.
And then you work out, okay, how much profit am I going to make?
Yeah.
And if it's more than 500,
that's what your tracker said. So you plugged it all into the tracker.
And make all your money back in 6 months.
Yeah.
If you're putting the kitchen in, all right, well, is that going to cost me, what, £2,000, £3,000?
I didn't put the kitchen in straight away. I dressed up what was there.
And used the money from the rent. That's smart. That's smart. When we first met, you were really driven about not just the NHS workers and providing housing, but also some of the stuff in Africa. We do stuff in Uganda and Zambia and different countries. My wife from Zimbabwe. Your nan was doing stuff in Kenya. Where are you at now with that? Is that still a passion for you? Are you still, now you're making money? Because you know what's going to happen next. As soon as you start making a bit more money, I want to be saying, now you need to be coming out to Africa. You need to be, so where are you at with that side of things?
Absolutely. That is absolutely there. I'm completely fired up to go out there and give back. There's a lot.
I want you to be running business workshops out there.
I would love to.
Working in the hospitals, the schools, teaching the kids about financial literacy.
That'd be fabulous, Samuel. If you could offer that opportunity.
100%. Well,
I'm there. I'm there next month.
No, we go all the time. We bring trips out. And it'd be Chris and Darcy as well. They've been out. Yeah. And you know Chris really well because he was the one that bullied you to join the academy.
That's true. What's
the vision then, property-wise, on a business level? What's your plan over the next few years? You've made a success of rent to rent. You've now been learning about lease options and buy refurbished finance. And I know that's what we had an interesting mentoring call last week. What's the business plan?
So my plan at the moment is to scale what I'm doing in terms of acquiring accommodation suitable for key workers, or accommodation near hospitals. I'd love to go nationwide, obviously, but I'm one person and can't do that myself.
Yeah.
So working through my business model at the moment to see how we can package it perhaps as franchise opportunities.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I'm really keen to do. And essentially, aside from that, get some BRRs and be able to have capital appreciation. It's all very well making this cash flow. However, in terms of wealth building and, it's capital appreciation is the name of the game, really. So essentially ownership, finding BRR deals in order to be able to grow my wealth pot.
And you've got a background in that. I know you did a flip in Wales, right?
I did, in the Welsh Valleys, Aberdare. We bought that for £70,000 and spent around £15,000 doing it up.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it was during the time of Brexit and the market was a little bit unsteady.
Yeah.
So it took a really long time to sell, unfortunately. And during that time, in hindsight, I probably should have kept the property and just remortgaged it.
Yeah, refinance it, rent it out, serviced accommodation, boom.
But nobody told me that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But nobody told me that. And if I'd known, I still follow that property on Rightmove now.
And you see it going up and up and up and up. That's what you want to keep. And it's interesting as well, because when we spoke last week, you were talking about going to Newcastle and doing BRRs there because it's cheaper. And I ripped that apart.
You did.
And was like, Gloucester, Southwest, that's where you're based. That's where you've got all your connections. That's where, and you're like, but there's no BRRs in Gloucester. I'm like, look at Jay. Look at bringing you all these people that are getting BRRs in Gloucester. What excites you most?
I think knowing that I'm being armed with all the tools to go out there and meet a landlord, meet an agent, or hear about a property deal, and I know that I'll be able to help find a solution. I've got access to mentors, booking mentorship calls whenever, and unlimited. And I think just knowing that I'm fully supported, that is what excites me.
Yeah. How's it been? How's the mentoring been so far?
It's been phenomenal. But I must admit, the last mentoring call I booked, when it was you that called me, I was like, oh, are ya?
I still do mentoring calls. I got a team, but I'm the head mentor.
That was a shock, though, because I had a different name and then it was Samuel calling.
Yeah, we all cover each other, someone's busy or whatever. But no, what are you going to be talking about because now you're speaking on stage in front of 500 people.
Thanks for reminding me.
We need to talk about that over lunch. And plan a talk. I think pushing yourself out your comfort zone is so important.
It is.
If you're thinking a bit small, no, think bigger, do bigger.
You can't grow if you're not constantly being uncomfortable.
What would be your biggest advice to someone with a heart to be an entrepreneur and a mission and a vision, but trapped in a job without the resources? How are they going to get out? How do you escape the rat race?
I guess my experience, because that was me. I started by literally obsessively watching your YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Booked your crash course. It's just getting the education. Once you've got education, it will spark that creativity within you. It will spark the drive and the desire, because then you'll be put on a path to attain what it is that you're trying to do. And especially for me, being someone that's probably on the neurodivergent spectrum, being able to be given a blueprint and something to stay focused on and keep on track, that's what I needed. Because I've tried crypto, I've tried trading I've tried so many different things. Because when you're an entrepreneur, you literally are open to all opportunities. However, what's wonderful about property is that there's still that variety of strategies that you can take, but ultimately they're all kind of interlinked, as we were saying earlier, and will keep you on track.
Yeah, and having coaching and stuff is important. Goals, business plan, being held to account is super important. What happens at the training? What's it like? What's the experience?
So at the training, you're throwing us in the deep end. We're straight on the phones to agents, booking in viewings, running numbers, speaking to landlords, which is thrilling, a little bit nerve-wracking, but we're all doing it together.
Yeah.
It's a really great environment.
And that's the thing, if you go to learn to drive, you've got to drive. So when people come to me and say, teach me how to get deals, it's like, okay, let's get deals.
Essentially, yeah.
Let's do it.
Learn on the
And then if people have mistakes and it's like, okay, what happened? Let's share this. You've got to do it. That's the thing, people say, oh, you can learn online. It's like, this isn't learning online, this is doing. It's not a seminar, it's a doing-ar. Do you have more peace now or when you were in your job? Because the advantage to having a job, some would say, is you can just switch off when you go home. Whereas when you've got a business, it's like, oh, how do you deal with like work-life balance and just having peace in your life?
The peace of mind has come from being able to plan my day as I see fit.
Right.
So I'm not restricted to working the 9 to 5 hours and then working on my passion. I'm able to work on my passion throughout the day, and I can plan and decide how I do that and structure my day.
Yeah.
And that is the luxury, and that is what has given me a massive sense of peace, because I think before you're almost like in panic mode because you've got all these pressures in your job and you haven't got much time outside of your job, even just for like normal life.
Yeah, it's true.
Whereas now, the pressures of my normal life, I can deal with them at any time that I decide to, and then work on my business at any time I decide to.
Yeah.
Even if that means me sending business emails on a schedule send, so they might not get the email when I've sent it at like 1 a.m. So just basically working on my own schedule.
Is that better for your mental health?
100%. My friends will say, Kay, why and how are you so happy all the time? Why are you always smiling? Why are you always laughing? Like, it seems like whenever anything happens or, whenever there's anything difficult, or I know you're going through some hardships or whatever, but how are you always still smiling at the end of the day? And I've got to put that down to the opportunity that I've taken to do your training and believe in myself that I can be a success, and your belief in all of us as well. I think that's what really inspires us.
Yeah.
And we're just going out there and running on what you've started. And honestly, I'm just so inspired, and I'm just so grateful that I've reconnected with you and that I'm putting into practice everything that you were doing like back then, like 10 years ago. You were telling me about, but I didn't quite understand it.
Yeah, because I wasn't teaching it then, I was just doing it.
Doing it.
Yeah.
And so now, I just know that there's something really special happening just across the whole community. Yeah. And I'm a part of that.
Revolution right now.
It's a revolution.
People will look back in years to come and say, do you remember 2024, 2025, when there was people exiting their jobs en masse and getting into property? Normal people. It's revolutionary. History book stuff.
It is. It really is. And to be a part of that, I think that's what is driving me to now.
I have a philosophy in business, which is you make one move, I'll make 10. That's like my whole philosophy. And sometimes people think they'll watch Winners on a Wednesday, or they'll come to, and they think, oh, Samuel's just trying to sell me a course. It's like, no, I want to pour my life into you, but I need you to meet me halfway. I need you to invest a little something. I need you to at least, people message me all the time, when are you next running a crash course in Bedford? I'm like, come meet me halfway. If you can't make the trip to London, do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
There has to be some skin in the game. And the fact that you've done that and now the results are paying off massively, you're out of your job, and not only are you making good money, but you're living your purpose. I'm really excited and I'm really proud of you.
Thanks, Samuel.